What happens when two of the most powerful voices in Hollywood collide, not behind closed doors, not in private whispers, but live on television, in front of millions of viewers, with no script to soften the blows? Tonight, on a stage meant for conversation, laughter, and opinion, something unprecedented unfolds, an explosion no one saw coming, not even the people sitting just inches away. This isn't just a disagreement. This is Denzel Washington and Whoopi Goldberg colliding in a storm so fierce that it makes the audience gasp, the producers panic, and the world stop and listen. Before we dive deeper into this fiery confrontation, make sure you subscribe to Stage Storm, hit that like button, and drop your thoughts in the comments, because what you're about to witness will leave you stunned, and we want to hear every reaction. It began like any other morning on The View. The set gleamed under the studio lights, polished, comfortable, familiar. The hosts were ready for yet another lively discussion, their mugs of coffee in hand, their notes scattered in front of them. But today wasn't just any day. The guest seated in the chair opposite them was none other than Denzel Washington, a man known for his commanding presence on screen, his measured words, his calm intensity that could silence a room. The audience applauded thunderously as he walked out, his stride deliberate, his eyes sharp, his smile both charming and guarded. Whoopi Goldberg, ever the matriarch of the panel, leaned forward with that wry smile she's known for. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice filled with theatrical warmth, "the one and only Denzel Washington." The audience roared, the applause swelling into cheers, until finally it faded into an anticipatory silence. At first, the conversation flowed easily. Denzel spoke about his recent project, his journey through Hollywood, his respect for storytelling. He talked about the discipline of his craft, the sacrifices it demanded, and how he never let fame dictate the man he chose to be. But then came the turn. A single question, laced with the sharpness only Whoopi could deliver, shifted the tone. She leaned back in her chair, her glasses sliding slightly down her nose, and asked, "Denzel, you've always spoken about morality, about faith, about principles in your work. But don't you think sometimes Hollywood, your Hollywood, falls into the trap of preaching those values while failing them off-screen?" The room grew still. The other hosts glanced at each other, sensing the tension simmering beneath her words. The audience shifted in their seats, curious. Denzel's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but he smiled. "Well, Whoopi, I think it's easy to criticize the system from the outside. But when you're in it, you understand, it's not about perfection. It's about effort. It's about trying to tell the truth, even when the world doesn't want to hear it." Whoopi tilted her head unfazed. "But isn't that the problem? Trying to tell the truth isn't the same as living it. And I've seen too many people in this industry, some even sitting here, who talk about truth, faith, family values, and then do the opposite." A ripple of gasps spread through the studio audience. Joy Behar raised her eyebrows, Sunny Hostin adjusted in her seat, and Sarah Haynes looked down nervously at her notes. The tension was palpable, like electricity in the air before a thunderstorm. Denzel's eyes narrowed ever so slightly. "So are you saying I'm one of those people, Whoopi?" His voice was calm, but beneath that calm lay a fire waiting to ignite. Whoopi leaned forward, her voice steady but sharp. "I'm saying Hollywood has a hypocrisy problem. And Denzel, as much as people look up to you, you've played into it too." The audience gasped louder this time, some murmuring in disbelief, others leaning forward in fascination. Denzel's smile disappeared. His gaze locked onto Whoopi's, the air between them heavy with unspoken history and unresolved truths. For a moment, no one moved. Not the hosts, not the crew, not the audience. It was as if the world itself was holding its breath. And then, Denzel leaned forward, his voice dropping into that deep, resonant tone that made every word land like a stone in water. "You want to talk about hypocrisy, Whoopi? Let's talk about it." The storm had begun. The audience erupted in nervous laughter, unsure whether to cheer, gasp, or stay silent. Denzel's words hung in the air, heavy, deliberate. He leaned forward, resting his forearms on his knees, his posture signaling that this wasn't going to be a polite deflection. This was going to be a reckoning. See, it's funny, Denzel continued, his voice steady. How easy it is to point the finger. To call out Hollywood, to call out hypocrisy, to make yourself look like the truth teller in the room. But Whoopi, he paused, his eyes locked on hers. You've played this game longer than I have. You know what it costs. You know the compromises. So don't sit here and pretend you're above it. The audience gasped again, the sound like a wave washing through the studio. Whoopi's expression didn't waver, though her grip tightened on the table. She chuckled softly, a humorless sound. Oh, so now it's about me? Denzel, you think calling me out is going to change the fact that you've played roles that glorify violence, corruption, and sin, while standing on pulpits talking about morality? The crowd reacted audibly, half in shock, half in excitement. The View had always thrived on heated debates, but this wasn't a debate anymore. This was personal. Denzel's jaw flexed. His voice grew sharper. You're confusing acting with living. I play characters, Whoopi. Characters that reflect the world we live in. You think I'm glorifying sin? No. I'm exposing it. I'm holding a mirror up to society. That's my job. Your job, Whoopi shot back, her tone cutting, is to entertain. Don't pretend you're saving souls. The other hosts were frozen, unsure whether to intervene. Joy Behar muttered under her breath, "Oh boy, here we go," while Sarah nervously sipped her coffee. Sunny Hostin attempted to steer the conversation back, her voice trembling slightly. Well, perhaps what we're really talking about is the role of Hollywood in shaping morality. But neither Denzel nor Whoopi was listening. The tension between them had eclipsed the table, pulling all the energy toward their verbal clash. Denzel's voice rose, deep and commanding. I don't need Hollywood to define my faith. My faith defines me. And if you can't see the difference between art and reality, then maybe you've forgotten what this business is supposed to be about. Whoopi's eyes flashed. And if you think playing preacher off-screen makes up for the messages you put out there, then maybe you're the one who's forgotten. The crowd erupted, some cheering, some booing, some shouting in disbelief. The producers gestured frantically from the sidelines, signaling the hosts to calm things down, but no one dared interrupt. This wasn't a conversation anymore. It was a collision of two legacies, two forces too powerful to be contained. Denzel leaned back, exhaling slowly, his gaze never leaving Whoopi. You know what the real problem is, Whoopi? It's not me. It's not the roles I play. It's the fact that you can't stand that people listen to me. That people see me as a voice of integrity. And that voice doesn't match your version of the truth. The words hit like thunder. The audience gasped so loudly it echoed through the studio. Whoopi's composure cracked for just a second, her lips tightening, her eyes narrowing. Then she leaned forward, her voice almost a whisper, sharp enough to cut glass. Integrity, huh? Let's not pretend, Denzel. Everyone's got skeletons. Even you. The air went ice cold. The audience froze, sensing the danger of those words. Denzel's face hardened, his jaw clenched tight. The silence was deafening. And then he said low and steady, Careful, Whoopi. Don't go there. The studio air felt suffocating. The cameras kept rolling, but every crew member's eyes darted nervously between the two titans at the table. The audience, once lively, sat in stunned silence, hanging on every breath, every pause, every unspoken threat. Whoopi leaned back, folding her arms across her chest, her expression daring him. Why not, Denzel? Afraid of the truth? The crowd gasped again. It was no longer a show, it was a standoff. Denzel inhaled deeply, then leaned forward again, his voice rich with restrained fury. You want truth? I'll give you truth. The truth is, I've fought my entire career to protect my integrity. To stay grounded. To keep my family first. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't play with this business the way others do. And for you, of all people, to sit here and try to tear that down, on national television? His voice cracked with intensity. That's not truth, Whoopi. That's envy. The words sliced through the air like a blade. The audience reacted viscerally, Gasps, murmurs, even a few shouts. Some clapped instinctively, others shook their heads. The tension had become unbearable. Whoopi's lips pressed into a thin line. For a moment, her eyes softened, as if remembering the respect she once held for him. But then her expression hardened again. Envy? She repeated. Don't flatter yourself, Denzel. I've been in this game long enough to know when someone's playing saint on Sunday and sinner on Monday. The audience groaned, half in shock, half in awe at her audacity. Denzel's fist tightened on the table, though he never raised his voice to a shout. Instead, he let his calm fury do the work. I don't need to defend myself to you. My work, my life, speaks for itself. The people who know me, who truly know me, they understand. And maybe that's what bothers you, that after all these years, you can't shake me. The silence that followed was chilling. Whoopi's face betrayed nothing, but the faint tremble in her voice revealed the storm inside her. Or maybe, Denzel, I just see through you. The audience gasped yet again, louder than ever, the sound echoing through the set like a rolling wave. At that moment, Joy Behar finally stepped in, her voice nervous but firm. Okay, let's take a breath here. We've all got opinions, and that's what this table is about, but maybe we should bring it back to the conversation instead of, personal attacks. But no one was listening. The cameras zoomed in on Denzel, his face stern, unreadable. Then on Whoopi, her eyes defiant, her jaw set. Two legends locked in a battle of wills, either willing to back down, either willing to let the other have the last word. And just when it seemed like the moment might implode, Denzel leaned back, his voice low but cutting. You know what, Whoopi? This conversation says more about you than it does about me. Whoopi opened her mouth to respond, but the studio audience erupted again, half applauding, half booing, the chaos drowning out whatever she tried to say. The hosts glanced nervously at the producers, who signaled desperately to cut to commercial. But before the cameras faded, one last image seared into memory: Denzel Washington and Whoopi Goldberg, glaring at each other, the fire between them unextinguished. The storm wasn't over. It had only just begun. When the broadcast cut to commercial, the studio was in chaos. Crew members swarmed, producers whispered frantically into headsets, and the audience buzzed with disbelief. People clutched their phones, already typing, already tweeting, already spreading the word. By the time the cameras returned, the tension had only grown. But it was too late. The moment had already escaped the studio. Clips were racing across social media, hashtags exploding within minutes, hashtag Denzel vs. Whoopi, hashtag The View Meltdown, hashtag Hollywood Hypocrisy. Twitter was ablaze. Instagram flooded with reaction videos. TikTok edits looped the sharpest exchanges over dramatic music. The world wasn't just watching, it was choosing sides. Back in the studio, Whoopi sat rigid, her expression carved in stone. Denzel leaned back in his chair, composed but smoldering. The other hosts tried to salvage the show, but every word fell flat, drowned out by the storm that had just taken place. When the credits rolled, the audience erupted again, some cheering Denzel for standing tall, others applauding Whoopi for daring to challenge him. Security gently ushered the crowd out, but the noise lingered long after the lights dimmed. By evening, major outlets had picked it up. Headlines screamed, "Denzel explodes at Whoopi live on The View." Talk shows replayed the footage, frame by frame, dissecting every glance, every word, every pause. Pundits debated whether Denzel had overstepped, whether Whoopi had crossed the line, whether the clash was a reflection of Hollywood itself. But beyond the headlines, there was something deeper, an image burned into the minds of millions. Two titans of culture, stripped of pretenses, revealing their raw convictions before the world. And as the storm raged online, one question echoed everywhere: who was right? Some said Denzel embodied integrity, that his calm fury and unshaken stance proved his authenticity. Others said Whoopi was the truth-teller, unafraid to expose the contradictions no one else dared name. But one thing was certain: the clash had left an indelible mark, not just on The View, not just on Hollywood, but on the people watching at home. And now it's your turn. Whose side are you on? Was Denzel justified in defending himself so fiercely, or was Whoopi right to challenge him on national television? We want to hear your thoughts. Drop your opinion in the comments below. And don't forget, subscribe to Stage Storm for more explosive, dramatic stories like this one. Because if this confrontation taught us anything, it's that when legends collide, the world can't look away. The storm has passed, but the echoes remain.